Hi everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to still continue to look at the key attributes of exponential graphs, but we're going to add the step of graphing the equation first. All the tables that we're going to give you will already have the x values written in. If they're not written in, you can start by doing -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. I actually want to skip the first problem and go straight to problem number 2. So let's look at number 2 in your notes. So remember, if it's in the x column, the -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2, all we're going to do with those values is plug it in for x into our equation. The key here is you have to know and understand how to put it into your calculators. When you do this in your calculator, the fraction 1 over 2, you need to put in parentheses. So parenthesis 1 divided by 2, parenthesis. Then, when you go to the 4, you're going to do a new parenthesis, put a 4 parenthesis, and then that's where you need to hit your exponent key. Most of you have a caret like that. Some of you with the older models also have that y to the x button. Either one of those work, and if we look at our first x value, it is -2. At this point, you're going to hit equals. So hit equal on your calculator. What did you get? Good, you got 0.03. Now, we still have that +2 in the equation, so now we have to add 2 to it, and great, you get 2.03. That is my first y value, 2.03. I'm going to go through those steps every single time for each number in my table. So for the -1, again, I'm going to start by doing 1 over 2 in parentheses, parenthesis 4 parentheses, my exponent key, but now my exponent is -1. I'm going to hit the equal sign. That gives me the number 0.125. Now I add 2 to it, and I get 2.125. So that's what goes in my separate blank. Hit pause now and try to enter in 0, 1, and 2. Did you get the numbers that I got? Great job, awesome. Now that you have those numbers, we have to go ahead and plot those points on the graph. Now, I realize that plotting -2, 2.03 is a little bit strange for some of us, but it's okay. We're just going to kind of estimate where that comes out to be. So -2, 2.03 is really close to the 2 line. -1, 2.125 is just a little higher up, not much. 0, 2.5. So it's halfway between the 2 and the 3 line. 1, 4, and 2, 10. When I graph this, you're going to see that this point right here, -2, was very, very close to 2. So when I graph this, I'm actually not going to cross that 2 line. And this is my arrow over here. It is very, very close to that 2 line because that 2 line is something that we call the horizontal asymptote. We draw a dashed line through it to show that. That is the imaginary line that you're never going to cross. That goes through 2 on the y-axis, so that is y is equal to 2. So when we think about our asymptote, that is y is equal to 2. How does that correlate to your equation? Do you see how you're adding that 2 in the equation? Whatever number is being added or subtracted at the very end, that is your asymptote. If there is no number being added or subtracted, that means 0 is your asymptote. The rest of the stuff is pretty easy to answer. This graph is going from really small to really big, so it's growth. Your domain every single time is what? Yes, -infinity to +infinity. My range, now remember how I found that asymptote, whatever's being added or subtracted in my equation, that starts my range. It starts at 2 and it shoots up sky high to +infinity. The final thing I get from my table is what is the x-intercept or the y-intercept. That's where x is equal to 0, so that is at 0, 2.5. Good. Now let's go backwards to number 1. now that we figured out that our asymptote is whatever's being added or subtracted. So if we look at equation number 1, do you all see that a -1 is being added or subtracted in the end? Great. So that is my asymptote, y equals -1, meaning when I graph it, I am not going to cross that line of y equals -1. That's where my dashed line goes. Now let's see how to plug this one into our calculator. Again, we're going to start with that 4 and then times. So I'm going to show parentheses 1 divided by 2. Now notice in parentheses I have that 1 divided by 2. Now I'm going to do my exponent key and my first value is -2. This is where you hit the equal button. What decimal do you come up with? Oh, you don't come up with a decimal. You come up with the number 16. I still have that asymptote -1, which gives me 15. So my first blank is 15. I'm going to go through those same steps for each number. 4 times with parentheses, 1 over 2. Now I do my exponent button, -1. I hit the equal sign. That gives me 8. I minus my asymptote equals 7. Hit pause now and try to enter the rest of your values. Then come back and make sure you got them correct. Welcome back. Did you get these same numbers? Great job. Awesome. If not, make sure you're entering it the exact way that I wrote in red, green, and blue above. The key here is you must hit the equal sign before you add or subtract the asymptote. Now we're going to go ahead and graph these lines, or these points. So -2 goes all the way to 15. -1 goes to 7. 0, 3. 1, 1, and 2, 0. Now in this situation, it doesn't look like it's getting close to the asymptote line, but we told you that it approaches it, but it doesn't cross. So when you connect these dots, you're going to naturally curve it and show that it gets close to the asymptote, but doesn't touch it. Now we see that we're starting really big and ending really small, so that's what we call decay. Every single time my domain is -infinity to +infinity. My range starts with my asymptote, -1, and it shoots up to the sky, +infinity. And finally, looking at my table of values, where is x equal to 0? At 3, so 0, 3 is my x-intercept. Good job. Let's go ahead and look at number 3 on the back side. So looking at number 3, we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to start by doing my equation. I have 4 parentheses 2 parentheses. I do my exponent button. My first value is -2. When I enter that in the calculator, I come up with, good job, you come up with 1. Now I'm going to minus my asymptote. 1 minus 2 is -1. Ooh, did I just say asymptote? You're right, because whatever is being added or subtracted in the end is my horizontal asymptote. I can go ahead and put that down below. So -1 goes in the chart. Now I'm going to go through and do the same thing again. So I have 4 parentheses 2 parentheses. Now I'm raising it to the -1 power equals. And what number does that give me? Good, it gives me 2. Now I'm going to minus the asymptote. What is 2 minus 2? 0. Great job. Go ahead and try to enter in 0, 1, and 2 and make sure your numbers match mine. Hit pause now. Welcome back. Did you get the same numbers? Awesome. Again, we're going to draw in that horizontal asymptote because we know no matter what, I'm not going to cross the -2 line. Cannot happen. So now I'm going to plot my points. -2, -1. I have -1, 0, 0, 2, 1, 6, 2, 14. Again, it doesn't quite show me, but I know I'm going to get close to the asymptote line, but not cross it. That's what we're looking for. Do you understand that your graph cannot sink below that dashed line? Looking at this one, I'm starting on the left small, and I'm shooting up really, really high. So that's exponential growth. Your domain, always negative infinity to positive infinity. Your range always goes from your asymptote on up. So -2 to positive infinity. And finally, looking at your table of values, great. My x is equal to 0 at 0, 2. Let's try one more problem and make sure that you're getting it down really, really well. This one has a lot of fractions in it. You need to be careful. Every single time you see a fraction, you want to put it in parentheses. For example, before I even get there, do you all see how it says -1 up there? That is my, good job, the asymptote. So y equals -1 is my asymptote. Before I go any further, I'm going to draw that dashed line in there so I don't forget about it. Good. Okay, so now let's enter our values in. My first parenthesis is 1 divided by 3. Now I'm going to do a second parenthesis, 1 divided by 6. Exponent button. And what's my first number? You got it, -2. Then I hit the equal button. And what do I come up with? Good, I come up with 12. Now I got a minus my asymptote equals 11. So 11 is my first value. Now I go back. Parenthesis, 1 divided by 3. Parenthesis. Parenthesis, 1 divided by 6. Parenthesis. My exponent button. And what's my next number? You guessed it, -1. Now I hit the equal sign. And what does that give me? Good, it gives you 2 minus your asymptote equals 1. So my next value is 1. Hit pause and try this for the next 3. Welcome back. Did you get those same numbers? Awesome job. And yes, it's okay to have these negative decimals. They're ugly, but we're going to deal with them and we are going to be A-okay. So -211 is right there. -1 is right here. This is where it gets a little dicey. 0, -0.67. Here's my 0. I'm down below the line. 1, -0.94. Again, I'm down below the line. 2, I'm still below the line. Notice I never cross this dashed line because that's the asymptote, the line that I cannot cross. So when I connect these dots, I curve it carefully so I do not cross that line. Now, it's starting really big, going really small. This is our example of decay. My domain is what every single time? Great job. Negative infinity to positive infinity. My range always begins where? Yes, it begins at the asymptote, -1. And it always shoots up towards, you guessed it, positive infinity. Now you're getting it. And finally, what is my y-intercept? Where is x equal to 0 in my table? Correct. 0, -0.67. Awesome job today. If you guys have any questions at all, feel free to ask your teacher. Otherwise, I feel like you guys are ready to move on to your classwork. Thanks again. Have a good day. Bye-bye.